I've worked with celebrities, with multimillionaires, guys living in $20 million mansions, guys with Ferrari collections, and one of them's worth $8 million because it's a special 1969 Ferrari. Look, nobody has it all figured out, folks. Nobody has it all figured out. Life is constantly changing, and the way to win the game of life is to simply stay in the game of life and stay in a positive emotional state in the game of life, staying in a state of gratitude, even through the challenges.
Welcome to the Legendary Life Podcast, where it's all about taking control of your health, losing fat, transforming your body, and living the life you deserve with celebrity fitness trainer and longevity enthusiast, Ted Ryce. Okay, I've got something exciting to share with you. Over the past few months, my team and I have been working hard behind the scenes to create something special for you, my listeners. If you're an executive, entrepreneur, or other high performer looking to lose 20 to 30 pounds of fat, transform your body, and to do it all without giving up your favorite foods or your social life in the process, then you're gonna wanna hear this. I've never done anything like this before, but I'm confident it's going to help you win big with your health in 2022. So if you're excited to see what I have planned to help you, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/Facebook to join my exclusive Facebook group. Again, that's legendarylifepodcast.com/Facebook. See you inside. Why is it such a struggle to stay positive, to stay in a good emotional state most of the time? Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever wondered why it's such a challenge? Well, we're going to dive into that today. And we've got a lot to get to, so let's jump right in. And first, I got to say, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ted Ryce, coach to executives, entrepreneurs, and other high performers. People who want to get in shape without giving up their lifestyle or their favorite foods. That's what I help people do. And we'll talk about even how that's related to what our subject is, what the theme is for today's Real Talk Friday. I want to tell you this first. I'm in Orlando right now. Orlando, if you don't know my story, if you've only listened to a couple episodes, I'm from Miami. I grew up in Miami. I've been coming to Orlando since I was a little kid. It was such a special place to go. Some of the best memories of my childhood are here. I'm even getting a little teary even talking about it. And as you probably have heard, my dad died last October. I've mentioned that quite a lot. And I'm still processing. Now, one of the reasons why I keep mentioning it is because, man, that's the reality. If you want me to pretend like nothing's happening, go to a different show. If you want all those people who pretend like their life is so perfect and they never tell you the truth about what's going on, go to a different show. We keep it real here. That's why it's called Real Talk Friday. So if you're still with me, let's continue. So this stuff has happened, right? I'm not going to go into the backstory, but it's a big deal. The death of my dad. And I'm back here in Orlando. I was here a year ago, actually, after my dad died, after we buried him in Miami. I came straight to Orlando and went to Universal Studios and rode roller coasters. Is that weird for you? If you've been listening to the show for a while, probably not. And if you're wondering, well, what does this have to do with staying positive? What is the death of your dad and riding roller coasters? Where the hell are you going with this? Well, welcome, because I'm going to connect the dots for you here, because this is exactly the stuff that you can use in your life. In fact, one of the most common questions people have asked me, how are you able to get past all these things that you've been through in your life and still be like positive and still show up with enthusiasm, with optimism, with dreams that you're still going after? How come you're not knocked down, and how come you don't stay down? I don't get it. And what I shared last year was this, and we're going to expand on this. Why did I go and ride roller coasters after I buried my dad? Really simple. Wait for it. Because you can't be sad on a roller coaster. I'm going to say that again. Sounds ridiculous, but I want you to think about it. You cannot be sad on a roller coaster. This time around, they have the Velasa coaster. It's the new roller coaster in the Jurassic Park area of Universal Studios. If you're familiar, if you're a fan of Universal like I am, and it's incredible. I got to sit in the front, and I want to back up a little bit because as soon as I got to Orlando, it brought up a lot of old feelings. It's like, it's connected with my childhood. I've got a crazy story about my childhood, about my family, about, all the things that have happened, the murder of my little brother, my sister's suicide, all these things. And on top of that, I flew from Playa del Carmen, Mexico to here. It was a big change. So it's stressful to adapt to a new environment. I know you listen to me and how I'm bouncing around all over the world and you think it's amazing, and it is, but it's also stressful to adapt. So here I am. I got a ton of work to do. I'm in a new environment. There's some good things about it. There's some bad things about it. I'm staying in a hotel, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, brought back up some childhood memories. So what did I do? I made sure I went and took the day off, went to Universal. Now I want to transition here because you may not be getting it. And forgive me, I'm doing my best here to explain what this is about. And the first thing I got to say is this. In 2001, some cognitive psychologists discovered that we have a bias in our brain. We have, in fact, what's called a negativity bias. Have you ever heard of that? If you've listened to this show, you've heard me talk about it. So what does that mean? Well, it's one of the most understated effects in all of cognitive science behind why negative events, emotions, and thoughts trump by a very wide margin our positive emotions, thoughts, and experiences. Now, here's the thing. The belief is this, that this bias kept us alive. So in the past, it helped you. For example, negative tastes elicit a stronger response than positive tastes. So I'm going to imagine eating, I won't be too gross here, but imagine eating, think of ice cream. Close your eyes. Brownie, what's it like? Chunks of brownie and some vanilla ice cream, or maybe even chocolate ice cream. Delicious. But now think about that time you opened up the milk. You took the milk out of the refrigerator, opened it up. You were about to chug it out of the carton, but that sour milk smell hit you. Ooh, strong, much stronger than the deliciousness of the ice cream. And the reason is this, or the belief is this, that it's more important to avoid foods or drinks that can make you sick because it can kill you. If you got sick enough, you could die. In fact, dysentery, which is, I don't know that much about it, but it's basically like a bacterial infection that causes chronic diarrhea. Kids die from that in the world. Another thing is that pain feels worse than no pain feels good. It's also why it's easier to pick out an angry face in the crowd than it is to pick out a happy face. And it's why the news constantly shoves the doom and gloom in our faces instead of talking about positive breakthroughs or positive stories. We just pay more attention to it because of the way our brains are wired. Are you with me so far? So if you're wondering why you're so negative, or why it's so easy to be negative, it's because all of us are wired in this way. Now, if you want to even set the stage a little bit more, studies on twins have found that parts of our personality are genetic. And one of the 5 personality traits is neuroticism. Some of us are born more neurotic than others, simply because of our genes. Now, if you really want to get crazy, if you were exposed to more cortisol, which is a stress hormone, while you were in your mother's womb, in other words, if your mom was super stressed out because she was poor or she was in a dangerous environment or something like that, she was living in poverty, you're going to have a tendency to be more triggerable. If and this is all before you're born, folks. Now, and we all still have the same negativity bias. Now, let's say you have some hard events in life. My mom, my biological mother, she was mentally ill. She was abusive. No need to get into details. Wasn't her fault, but it messed me up as a kid. Messed up my sister too. Out of all the things that happened to us, that was the strongest. Why? Because we were so young. Why does that matter? Because when you're young, your brain isn't formed. Your eye isn't fully formed until you're 25. I don't know if you knew that or not, but until you're 25, the halves of your brain, the hemispheres of your brain aren't fully fused. Your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25. Now you know why people under 25 are so dumb. Okay, they're not dumb. Their brains just aren't functioning as well as they will function eventually. In fact, why do you think insurance companies charge a lot more if you're younger? And especially for men. Men tend to be a bit more impulsive or in risk taking. So anyway, if you had some challenging life events like I've had, that's going to make you more negative or put your nervous system in a more heightened and aware state or hypervigilant state. So right now we have your genes, we have the environment, the in utero environment. In other words, what the environment, what your mother was going through before you were even born. Then we have your early life experiences. And then, there could be other things that happen to you as an adult, trauma. And again, we're still all working with the same wiring, the same negativity bias. So think about that. We're all coming into the world with that negativity bias, even if we have the most perfect of lives, even if our mom was massaged and fed berries, fed Tibetan goji berries that are thrice certified organic while she was, getting foot massages. You're still coming in with the negativity bias. And then if you add on some of those things, if your mom wasn't, if your parents lived a stressful lifestyle, if you went through some things in your youth, if you were bullied, if you had an experience like me, if you grew up in poverty, if you grew up in a violent neighborhood, that's going to put you on edge a little bit more. And so you might be asking, oh shit, I've got some of that. Well, what the hell do I do about it? I don't want to be this negative because negativity, it's not helping. It doesn't help like it probably helped in the old days, in the hunter-gatherer days. It doesn't help in the modern world, especially if you live in a place like America. Oh my gosh, life is so easy here in so many ways. In other ways, it's not. A lot of psychosocial stress. We're at each other's throats over politics and beliefs and identity. That's a story for another time. But living is so much easier. I've traveled all over Southeast Asia. I've lived in Mexico. I've lived in Colombia. I've lived in Brazil. Let me tell you, America, regardless of what you think about your experience in America or the UK or Australia, it's one of the best places there is in the entire world. So what do we do when this negativity bias really takes hold and we know it's not helping us? It's not helping us with our health. It's not helping us to advance in our careers. It's not helping us run our businesses, and certainly not helping us in relationships. What do we do? Is there a magic number of positive experiences, perhaps, compared to negative experiences? That if we just do that, we can be in a better emotional state and conquer our innate negativity bias and perhaps some of the early life experiences that have left a mark? And the answer is yes. Think about how crazy this is. I want you to think about how crazy this is, because I don't know about you, but when I was in the depths of some of my feeling sorry for yourself moments, I would just think to myself, like, oh man, how do I have a better life here? What's the secret to having a better life? Like, how can that happen? What's the key? Well, I'll tell you what. Check this out. There was a psychologist, Barbara Fredrickson, who found a research-tested formula for flourishing in life. And what she found was this: for every negative experience we have, we need 3 positive experiences to counteract that. I'm going to say that again. For every negative experience you have, you need 3 positive experiences to keep you in that positive zone, that feel-good zone, that zone where you're feeling your best. And she's not the only one. Relationship expert John Gottman found that when he studied the effects of negativity with couples, he came up with, along with his partner, Robert Levinson, the ratio of 5-to-1. That meaning for every negative encounter, there should be a minimum of 5 positive ones to counterbalance the effects of the negative one. Now, who's right here? Who knows? Probably different for different people, according to your life experiences, right? According to some of the things that we talked about earlier. And in relationships, I mean, there's 2 people involved. That's a bit more complicated. So it's not surprising. Now, I'm not read up on the research here, to be honest, but it makes sense that because there's 2 people and 2 genetic tendencies of neuroticism and 2 different childhoods and other things, maternal environments, maternal in utero environments, that it would be 5-to-1. And listen, I don't know as much about Barbara Fredrickson, but I'll tell you, if you've got some relationship issues or you want to avoid relationship issues because you're a smart person and you believe in prevention over the cure, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, go to YouTube and watch John Gottman's The Science of Love TED Talk. It's incredible. It will change the game for you. It's less about what we say. It's more about how we feel in a relationship. So I want to talk about this ratio. It doesn't matter if you want to use the 3-to-1 or 5-to-1, or maybe you want to take the average and say 4-to-1. But I want to say something about this because this is the part that I think a lot of people miss. A lot of us, it's number one, we have negative experiences. Our tires go flat on the way to work. We incur expenses that we weren't expecting. We have things go wrong in our business for running a business. People get sick unexpectedly. Things happen. But when I think about, what my point is, it's easy to figure out what's negative, easy to figure out. Oh man, no. Yeah, it's easy to figure out. You feel it right away. And I think a lot of us feel the overwhelmingly positive experiences, but I think a lot of us are stuck somewhere in the middle. And I work with, it doesn't matter if you're, let's say you're struggling financially, that for sure can cause problems. But I want to tell you this, I work with very successful people. Most of them are entrepreneurs doing very well. And their career, their business maybe a slight positive, maybe a slight negative. Most of the time is probably neutral. And that's the part I want to talk about. A lot of where our lives are, it's neutral. What do? Americans in particular, we go out to eat. Now, I'm not going to say that's a negative experience, but if it's positive, it's not a strongly positive experience, especially if you're doing it a lot. And maybe every once in a while. But then it can get a little bit complicated. Let's say that you go out to dinner with the boys, celebrating some business wins. You get the gold-crusted Wagyu tomahawk and have a few glasses of Opus One or Petrus 2003, whatever you're into, little Blue Label, whatever you're into. And let's say it was pretty good, but then you woke up the next day feeling bad, not because of a negative experience, but simply because you had a few drinks, you had some shitty sleep as a result, and you just feel bad the next day. Again, you had a great time, but it just wasn't so great that it counteracted the effects, the hangover effects, the toxic effects, really, because alcohol is a poison, maybe a fun poison and somewhat tasty poison, and depending on what you're drinking. But you have too much of it, it'll mess you up. And so what I want to tell you here, and I just want to recap. So we have a negativity bias. All of us do, no matter how perfect our lives are. The second most important thing is our childhoods, even from before we were born, the in utero environment affects us and our nervous system coming into the world. Then, you have other things that happen. And the older you are, the more your body starts to break down. A lot of people say age is just a number. And there's some truth to that. And there's also some bullshit to that, isn't there? We know that the worst thing you can do for your health isn't obesity. It isn't smoking. Although both are really up there. It's getting older. And if you look at COVID numbers, the worst thing you can be for COVID is old. The worst thing you can be for heart disease or cancer is old. And I'm not saying, oh man, you're done if you're, over 60. What I am saying is that you're going to have to work harder. We know that sleep starts to get worse. So you're going to have to work harder as you get older on your health. So the next thing I want to talk about here, kind of lost my train of thought there. Really sorry about that. But I'm trying to figure out how the best way to explain this, and I have my moments. I promise I'll land the plane at the end. But the next thing we should talk about is this. There are three big areas where our positivity comes from and our negativity comes from. In other words, the things that give us joy in our life, the things that give us a lot of stress in our life. And it's really simple: health, wealth, and relationships. Health being everything from your sleep to how often you exercise, whether you exercise too much, whether you exercise too little. Are you overweight? Are you underweight? Very rare in Western society, but in South Asia, for example, it does happen. Other parts of the world, it does happen, and it's not healthy. Big time consequences to being underweight, especially for children. But anyway, there's the health. And I would ask you, rate yourself on health. Like, what are the positives coming from your health? What are the negatives coming from your health? Then we can look at wealth. And wealth isn't just how much money you have. It's the purpose that you have when you go to work. Are you doing purposeful work? It's not just about the money. It's about, what are you doing for the money? How good do you feel about it? I love doing this podcast, for example. I love coaching clients. My work is mostly positive in that way. Now, I'll be honest, some of the things that I do for work. Now, I love coaching. I love doing the podcast. I love doing interviews. You know what I don't love? Some of the business stuff that I got to do. It's stressful and I don't want to do it. I never shy away from a coaching call or writing programs for clients or coaching clients to success. I get high off of it. So it's a positive, but some of the things that I have to do to continue to grow my business, I'm not a fan of. So that gives you an example of what I'm talking about in terms of wealth. Also, if you're struggling financially, that's got a ton of problems with it. Poverty sucks, and it sucks the life out of you. There's research on it. However, if you're, spending, if you make $1 million a year, but you're spending it as fast as you earn it it's easy to spend money. I remember asking one of my clients, what's the deal, right? Why more and more and more? And he's like, well, you can buy a painting for $1 million. You can buy a painting for 10 million. You can buy a painting for 100 million. He was into art. He was using that example. So it's easy to get yourself into a bad situation there. And again, if you don't have purpose with what you're doing, I remember training a client in Miami Beach. He was running $1 billion company. Guy was tired of it. It was clear. How do I know? He told me. He would I want to do some startups, but he didn't want to leave because he felt like he wasn't going to get, if he sold his company, he wasn't going to get $1 billion for it. He didn't need the money. He just couldn't get over the principle. The money the obsession with money was so much stronger than his, doing what he really cared about doing with his life. Maybe there was more to the story and he didn't share it, but the way he shared it, that's the impression that I got. So where are you with your wealth? What are the things from your career, from your money situation, maybe philanthropy situation? Are you doing enough for others? Where is it bringing you positivity? Where is it causing you stress in a negative way? And then relationships. Where are your relationships? Not just your relationship with your husband or your wife or your children or your parents or your in-laws, all of them. with your friends, all of them, all the relationships. Where are they bringing you positivity? Where are they bringing you stress? This is a great exercise to sit down and do. You can even do it as simple as something I've mentioned before. Where are you on a scale 1 to 10 with your health? Where are you on a scale 1 to 10 with your wealth? Where are you on a scale 1 to 10 with your relationships? And then which one's the lowest? That's the one you should work on. That's the one that's, for whatever reason, you're rating low. Why are you rating it low? Why is it low? Why is it a 3 or a 5 or a 6? Why is it not higher? And what actions need to be taken? And that's the point we need to get to here, is the actions. I was feeling bad when I first got to Orlando. So what did I do? I toughed it out for a couple days. Then I took the whole day off and went and just rode roller coasters. I got there at 9 a.m. in the morning. I stayed there until 8 p.m. I spent 11 hours walking around. So that's a positive thing to do, even though my right foot was a little achy. That was a positive thing to do for my health. I was outside, so I was getting a lot of sunlight, which helps with circadian rhythms. And so that helps with positivity. I was riding these rides where, man, such an amazing experience. Like I said, you can't be depressed on a roller coaster. You might be depressed a few minutes later after you get off. And I want to say something else here. There's a great book called The Body Keeps Score. The Body Keeps the Score by Besser van der Kolk. Don't ask me to spell that. He's a Dutch psychiatrist, actually. And it's a fantastic book. It's a book about recovering from trauma. And basically, it's about how this all comes down to stress. It all comes down to our nervous system. It all comes down to doing things that decrease the amount of sympathetic activation in your nervous system. In other words, what lowers the RPMs on your fight or flight response? What makes it less triggerable? And the answer is having experiences. And it's very fascinating. In the book, he talks about how he was part of the group of people who thought that antidepressant medications were going to change the game for his clients. And then he said, you know what? It's just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. People want to take antidepressants or real depressants like alcohol or shove food in their face because they're experiencing negative emotions and they're not dealing with them properly. Because if you're becoming an alcoholic, or if you're becoming obese, or if you're becoming a gambling addict, or if you've got a house full of stuff that you keep buying because your dopamine spikes when you do it and it feels good at the time, but it doesn't solve the root problem, that's not healthy. There's nowhere, anywhere in anything. I'm not judging you, and I've been there, but it ain't healthy. It's not a good place to be. And the answer, he says, is to go and have those experiences. Go do yoga is one of the things he's really into. In fact, his psychiatry clinic in Boston, it's all about having somatic experiences. In other words, doing things with your body. Very fascinating. One of the things I'll tell you I really want to do is I want to go to these people and interview them at their place. I want to do more media like that. You know, if they say, like, what would you do if you won the lottery tomorrow? Would you still be doing what you're doing? I would say yes. Just the podcast would probably be a TV show of some sort. And I would be going to these places. I would, figure out a way to monetize it or whatever, make money from it. But I would be going to these places and showing you the way, showing you what the best of the best do. Probably never even heard of Besser van der Kolk because Ben Greenfield and what's his name, Dave Asprey ain't going to have him on his show because he's not a big influencer with a huge following, even though his book has got a ton of reviews on it. It's a bestseller. Now, I want to change the game a little bit here. I'm reading another book called The Art of Impossible by Steven Kotler. Incredible book. I love Steven Kotler's stuff. I want to get him back on the show. He's been on the show a few times. And what he says is the same thing. You got to go out there and you got to have experiences. If you want to create impossible breakthroughs, whether it's capital I impossibles, like solving some of the world's biggest problems or solving some little case or lowercase impossibles where it's just things that you don't believe that you're capable of. That's the path to high performance. And if you solve enough of the little lowercase, I don't know why I keep calling it little, lowercase impossibles, lowercase I impossibles, you just might end up solving an uppercase impossible. And he coaches some of the, he talks to YPO and all these events, high level events. So whether you're interested in changing the world or not, maybe you're just interested in changing your world, this is the path forward. So I just want to recap again. Number one, we talked about our negativity bias. No matter what our story is, we all come with the same wiring. Two is those early childhood experiences and adult experiences can make your nervous system more sensitive through stress, making it more hypervigilant, making it more negative, making you more triggerable. And if that's the case, how do you balance things out? Well, it comes down to a ratio of more positive experiences than negative ones. Barbara Fredrickson, she's got a book out. I forget the name of her book. She says it's 3-to-1 positive experiences for every one negative experience. In the case of relationships, relationship expert John Gottman says it's 5 positive experiences, actually a minimum of 5 positive experiences to every negative one. This is the key, folks. I don't know if you're getting this. I hope I'm doing a good enough job, but this is the key, folks. And then all you got to ask yourself, what are the areas in my life that I need more positive experiences to balance out the negative ones? Not even to balance out, but to stay in a positive state. Is it my health? Am I constantly feeling bad because I'm overweight? Because you look in the mirror and you say terrible things to yourself? Because you have no energy? Because you don't sleep well at night? Because you have sleep apnea or whatever the case might be? Or is it your career? Is it something where you don't have enough money? Or maybe you make a lot of money, but you have no purpose? Maybe you keep spending that money on things like the Petrus 1996. And when you go on vacations, you have the 5-star experience, but you just come back, fatter and with a hangover. Or is it in relationships? Are you in a relationship you shouldn't be in? Or maybe you need to be in counseling, or maybe you're single. Where is it coming from? And more, and the last thing here is, what steps do you need to take to get to the next level? It's as simple as that. It can be hard to figure out what are those next steps. That's why there's coaches. That's why there's therapists. Gosh, there's so many people. There's no reason except a lack of resources. And even if you're broke, you can start listening to podcasts or audiobooks. You can take the next step with an audiobook. And if you got the resources, if you got the money, hire someone, get it fixed, then move on to the next one. Because once you figure out, I've had clients who got into great shape with me, and then they started saying, I think, let me ask you, Ted, I don't know if I'm in the right marriage. And I was like, whoa, I'm not ready. At first I was shocked, but then it started becoming quite common to hear how once someone got themselves in better physical shape, they started realizing, there's other problems that need to be dealt with here. For me, it was more financial. When I was so stuck paying, barely making my bills every month. And then finally, I started making $10K a month. And then I'm like, oh, awesome. I've made it. Oh no, wait a minute. Now there's all these existential struggles. And my big thing now, it's like my business is continuing to grow, but I'm like, I'm about to turn 45. All my family's gone and I don't have children. I'm not married. In fact, I'm divorced. So that's my area. That's my area I'm going to work on. My business is something that I want to keep growing because to be honest, I love what I do, but I want to turn it into something that is less reliant on me. Get some other streams of income in. That's a goal. But the big one is relationships. I want to say this. If you ever hear me and I sound like I have it all together, I'm challenged. Look, let me tell you something. I've sat down with Richard Branson. I've worked with celebrities, with multimillionaires, guys living in $20 million mansions, guys with Ferrari collections, and one of them's worth $8 million because it's a special 1969 Ferrari. Look, nobody has it all figured out, folks. Nobody has it all figured out. Life is constantly changing, and the way to win the game of life is to simply stay in the game of life and stay in a positive emotional state in the game of life, staying in a state of gratitude, even through the challenges. Of course, you got to grieve, you got to cry, you got to shake your fist to the heavens and scream, why me? But you got to come back from that point. And that's the big takeaway that I learned. I've had to really create. Why do you think I do a job that I love? It's not just because I'm like, oh, let me do something I love. No, I was forced into it because a person without my background may be able to do something that they hate. And just, hey, well, I'm getting paid. I hate it. I don't care about it at all. I don't care about what I do at all. But yeah, I make, pay the bills and have a good life, and that's okay. But for me, I don't really have a choice. I can't handle it. So if you're thinking I'm all tough, you're wrong. Nobody is. Not one single person, no matter how tough they talk. Always keep that in mind with all the influencers and everyone out there. We're all just trying to figure it out. With all your heroes, the Elon Musks, I don't know Elon, never hung out with him, but I know Richard and his family, great family. I mean, I don't know. Some people don't like him because the political views, that's not what I'm talking about. Just the vibe you get. Like, does he care about people? Does he care about his family? Or are they just sort of accessories like his mansion, right? Or whatever, his island rather. And so anyway, nobody has it figured out. But that's not an excuse to not take the next steps. So what I want to leave you with is this. What are the next steps that you need to take? What's the big takeaway from this podcast? And what's the next step you need to take? What is the action? Because don't be one of those people. Don't be a podcast junkie. Everyone thinks information. I'm learning information, more information. I'm learning more information. I'm learning. No, that's not learning. That's mental masturbation. That's procrastination. Learning is learning, going and doing. Learning, then doing. Learning, then doing. And if you're not following through on the doing part, you're not learning. You're not progressing. So what do you need to go do? That's what I want to leave you with. Love you lots. Have an amazing weekend. Go take some action and speak to you on Monday. And this Monday, I have a really special interview with entrepreneur Dan Roitman. So he's the founder and CEO of Stroll, a Philadelphia-based education e-commerce platform and one of the fastest growing companies in America. And we hung out at an entrepreneur meetup, a seminar, a conference, and I noticed his incredible transformation, his body transformation. And after I saw that, I wanted to get him on the show to talk about how a busy entrepreneur like himself was able to fit all the exercise, all the nutrition that he needed to follow into his life. And to ask him about how we should think about being high performance and where does health fit in with that. So if you're a busy professional who feels like work takes all your time away from focusing on your health and you're struggling to find a balance, tune in on Monday. You're going to learn a lot. Have an amazing weekend. Love you lots and speak to you then.
Okay, I've got something exciting to share with you. Over the past few months, my team and I have been working hard behind the scenes to create something special for you, my listeners. If you're an executive, entrepreneur, or other high performer looking to lose 20 to 30 pounds of fat, transform your body, and to do it all without giving up your favorite foods or your social life in the process, then you're gonna wanna hear this. I've never done anything like this before, but I'm confident it's going to help you win big with your health in 2022. So if you're excited to see what I have planned to help you, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/Facebook to join my exclusive Facebook group. Again, that's legendarylifepodcast.com/Facebook. See you inside.